So good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Woohoo.
Friday.
Um, I'm not working from home permanently, it seems like, so every day is the same day to me. It's just a different day on the calendar, going faster than slower these days. Like Lori said, I had met Lori through another organization volunteering years ago and ended up taking a detour from my job, which lent me more time to volunteer. And when we connected dots was just right up my alley because I really had the time to dig in and get to know the students and hang out and see what they were, what you young hip people were talking about these days. Um, so my journey, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I got my bachelor's degree of science from Carnegie Mellon. Raise your hand if you heard of Carnegie Mellon University. Exactly. Oh yeah, yay! Because a lot of people haven't. So I went to Carnegie Mellon. I was working there full time, and I was going part time because I couldn't afford to go. I didn't have a scholarship, and it's very expensive. So I was working and as a part time student. So instead of 4 years, it took me 8 years because I could only go part time, which makes sense, right? Do the math. So I was working at Carnegie Mellon while going to school there. And then the funniest thing is my job, I started out as a secretary at Carnegie Mellon when I first started taking my classes. And as my classes got more intense, I was able to get a job where I can immediately apply it. So that's one thing about working in a university environment where everybody's learning and they get it. Like everybody wants to learn. So I started out as like just a regular secretary doing, I think, conferences and things. And then I started taking the core courses like, marketing, English, world history, those kind of courses. So as I started expanding my course load, I was able to get a job still at the university, maybe in a different department where I could apply what I had learned immediately. And that's always something that I treasure. And then I started taking the stuff that makes your brain really hurt, like calculus and physics and optimization and all those classes. So when my brain started having to learn all that, I did end up landing a job as an internet security specialist. Now, mind you, I had just learned how to code COBOL and Fortran, and I know these are all old to you all, but you all remember Y2K? Who's familiar with Y2K? You don't know what that means? Raise your hand if you know what Y2K is. Don't Google it.
I made lots of money that year.
Okay. I'm sure you did. Yeah, and our company split lots of money that year, right? So for those of you who might not be familiar with, because it's been a while, was based on the code in the computer systems or just any kind of coding across the country. Whenever the clock was turning from 1999 to 2000, there was an anticipated glitch that could shut down everything, right? Like ATMs, banking, computers, just everything was going to shut down. So they had to start planning to prepare for that really early. So I would say the end of 1998, like mid 1998, definitely begin January 1999, everything was about, we got to get ready for Y2K. And at that time, like I was saying, I was an internet security specialist, and I wasn't a hardcore coder, but I was able to understand the language, and I would review it after other folks did it just to make sure that it was secure. My job at the time, we were funded by the Department of Defense, so we kind of hacked for good. We stopped intruders from trying to get into the Department of Defense network. And there was a lot of people trying at that time, So we would find you and be like, we see you, cut it out, or we're going to send somebody over and get you. So that's really what our job was. So Y2K, I ended up working, my shift was 11 p.m. until around 7 a.m. that next morning. I had never worked on New Year's, but we all had to come together. We had a big red phones to the Pentagon. I mean, it was a big production to get ready for the non-event, right? So the clock ticked, everybody, man your stations. That's what they were telling us, man your stations. So everybody went back to their desk and we got on our computers like at around 11 o'clock p.m. and we're all staring at the screen and waiting for something to happen. And the clock went to midnight. It was the year 2000 and nada, nothing happened. There was no I mean, any glitches that happened were so rare that it didn't affect anything. So we all cheered, drank champagne for the rest of our shift and went home. But just preparing for that, I knew there's sometimes you get in your life when you say, that was cool, but I want to do that again. And that was what happened to me. I was like, this is nice, but I don't know. I know I don't want to do this ever again. So that's when I decided to start looking outside of working in the university environment and into the private sector. And I ended up landing a job at the time it was called Symbol Technologies. So Symbol Technologies makes barcode scanners. You know, the scanners that at your grocery store, 7-Eleven, you know, bleep, bleep, you know, the laser scanners. Yeah, I know, I'm so used to the noise. I hear it all day, so I can do it on cue. And then we also were doing, we call them mobile computers. So a scanner is what you see at 7-Eleven, at your grocery store, you know, the self-checkout when you sit it down and it scans. A mobile computer is what happens whenever you get a delivery from FedEx. Those are mobile computers because they're computers with a scanner on it, you know, so they scan and you see them, have you sign, because that's more advanced than just a scanner. And then we also did wireless technology. So that's when we were Symbol. So in 2000, I moved from Pittsburgh to Long Island, New York for a company called Symbol Technologies. Very small company, it was like 5,000 people, but everybody wanted to change the world. And I really liked that environment because it was different from a university setting. However, people still wanted to change the world and just invent things, you know, and Y2K had just happened. So we were like, okay, nothing happened. So now we're free to really do what we want to do. So I've been here. Oh my God, Lori, you won't believe it. June 5th was my 20th anniversary at my job. I can't believe I worked it that long. It's crazy. Anyway, it went like that. But
So wait a minute, 20 years at your job that you're at now? Acquisition, you're
Whoa.
still the same company. Oh my God, that's hysterical. I just never even looked at it that way.
That's on Long Island, right? I'm pretty sure I've passed that building.
Yeah, she's from that was why I really was excited to have Rhonda come on, because she's a Long Island based company.
You're like right off the LIE.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I know exactly where that is.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Most people like, what, where? So yeah, we were Symbol Technologies. Then in 2000, I gotta do my math here. 2008, we got acquired by Motorola. So Motorola, everybody heard of Motorola, right? Because it's a bigger conglomerate. Motorola acquired us because they wanted to use our scanning technology in the police cars and for the military. So Motorola makes the radios, the police wear that whole unit set up in their cars. There was an element to that where they wanted to add scanning for policemen who do ticketing, you know, do parking tickets and things like that. And then also the Razor phone. So when they acquired us, they had just released the Razor. Everybody remembers the Razor phone? Don't make me go get mine because I kept it for nostalgia.
That was my first phone.
The flip, right? It was cool, right?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. So yeah, when we got acquired, they had just released the Razor phone. So we were everybody got a Razor. We were a new company under Motorola. People recognized our name. So I felt good about that. Like, yes, I work at Motorola. And then would have it, things didn't go as planned. The razor went away. We went and expanded into Google domains for our devices, as well as Microsoft CE and everything. And we got acquired again by a company called Zebra Technologies. And that was just in 2014. So I've been through 2 acquisitions, accumulation of 20 years. So yeah, Lori, all I know is I have driven up that same ramp for the past 20 years and went through that same front door, right?
I just didn't even put the pieces together. I'm sorry. I was like, oh my God, that's right. It's the same company.
It's the same company, just different name. And what I do today is, and I've had several different positions over those years. When I joined the company 20 years ago, I started out in inside sales. So I was on the phone saying, how many more scanners do you want to buy? Has your scanner broken? If it has, how many more do you want? And that was cool, but I'm more nerdy than salesy, even though I'm extroverted. So I was able to transition into a role that was more technical based on my history at Carnegie Mellon, whereby I would just help link up systems of our customers with our systems, because we were just building things so we could communicate seamlessly, pass data, that kind of thing. So it was kind of like a more of an operations analyst kind of role. And then I ended up with an acquisition, helping the marketing team do that. So once you do it for one department, the other department wants it. So I moved around the company. And then finally where I am now is they call it an manager. So now I'm on the tech services side. So I deal with when scanners break or mobile computers break, not one breaks, like you think about Amazon. COVID hit, right? So Amazon, who uses hundreds of thousands of our devices across the world, because we're an international company, when COVID hit, everybody went online and started shopping. Amazon wasn't prepared for that. So we had to figure out whatever they had broken, get fixed as soon as possible. And that's what I was saying. So one scanner doesn't break, or one mobile computer. It's like 10,000 at a time, because it's all software. And if a piece of code, as you know, goes bad, it affects the whole line in that lot. So my job now is to get all of our engineers, all the engineering disciplines, if it's software, mechanical, just every engineering discipline in our company, audio engineers, to get the device. I have to bring them together on a call around the world to get our devices up and running to make the customer whole as soon as possible. So no 2 days of my life are ever the same, which is.
I have a question. When it comes down to like these new scanners and stuff like that, well, not new scanners, because the company's been doing that since 2000, but was that the first frontier of like the Internet of Things and stuff like that?
Well, the Internet of Things for our company came, we probably didn't start really talking about it that way until 2012-ish, right? So what they had to do was, the person who invented the barcode came from Long Island. And then, of course, he teamed up and got funding to start the company to read. So he made the barcode, and then he was like, okay, so now I have the barcode. How am I going to get it read? And then he had to come up with a way to get stores to accept barcodes. Because you remember, you used to go in a store. Well, you probably don't, but our generation remembers going in the store and all I had, there was little stickers on everything. So we had to get stores to adopt that technology. And you know how people are about adopting new technology. Some of them freaked out. My mother still, don't get me started with her phone. Anyway, she has a cell phone that's never on. So why do you have one? But anyway, so yeah, getting people to adopt new technology. So the Internet of Things was, after we made the barcode, they made the scanner. We had to figure out how to make it talk to everything else. And that's where the Internet of Things started coming in, with how the World Wide Web grew, right? I mean, if you think about it, probably like 10 years ago, everything that we're able to see, through our connected homes and TVs, that, that didn't exist. So Now we're to a point where we've saturated. Well, this is just my opinion. Like we've saturated everything. So now we have to get back to controlling things, right? Like you think about all the people who had across the world who had to work from home or were on the internet when the internet wasn't ready for it, right? Like your cable provider, right? I have Optimum because I'm on Long Island, and those first couple days, it was the glitchiest thing because they just weren't. Nobody was prepared for them to get 24 hours a day. People, you know, all the kids at home, your TV's on, your computer's on, your phones are on, everything's on the same network all at the same time for 24 hours a day. I know they just weren't prepared for that, and neither were we to have to use it that way. So I think the Internet of Things is going in that direction where now we're able to reach out across the whole world, get whatever we want through the internet, but now it's time to control it and make sure it's secure, make sure you're getting the right information, it's not false, those kinds of things. So I know long-winded, but I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, Rhonda. My name's Patrick. I wanted to get some insight on when you were in school and back in your college days. How'd you learn about coding and how did you apply it to your current job today?
So once I had to take like I told you, like there are parts in my brain that still hurt from calculus. I'm not gonna lie. I think calculus was one of the hardest things I had to do. You know, if I would have went to college right out of high school like everybody should, but no, I wanted to live a little and just be me and then go back. So relearning math, but at a calculus level was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I'll give you an example and then I'll go right in your answer. So I had gone back, I had learned calculus, just calculus 1, and they had calculus for engineers and calculus for practical, right? So of course I took practical, and I studied for the first semester for the midterm, I think for like 3 weeks straight. I did every formula, whatever was in the book, I did it over and over and over. And I took my midterm and I got a 39 after studying for 3 weeks. That was my midterm. After studying, I got a 39. So I remember going up to the professor saying, what is the problem? Like, you don't like me? And I asked him, I said, why did I even study? I was like, if I'm going to still fail. And he goes, well, you know, I'm trying to be generous. He goes, I saw you were giving it a go. And I just realized that I'm not getting this. So thank goodness, sometimes you have to be an advocate for yourself. So I asked him, what can I do? I know I can learn this. Just what can I do? Ended up getting me one of his teaching assistants to sit with me and kind of tutor me after I got off work and everything. And by the final, I got an 89. What? So I figured it out. So after I knew I could learn calculus and then integrals, you know, one way and then go back the other way and everything, and then I took calculus 2, I had to. So that propelled me into really trying to want to code, because I know to be a coder, that basic fundamental of understanding how math really works and make it into a language, that's what made me fall in love with wanting to code, because I realized it was another language. You know, I'm like, I can speak English and I can speak C++ and JavaScript and, and COBOL, you know, so it was like learning another language to me. Did that answer your question?
That definitely answers my question. I'm just thinking in my head the code for those bar scanners, that must look crazy.
Yes, especially when they break, and it's not just a semicolon. You know what that is? See, most people don't get that. I'm like, people who code know what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah. So who else?
Rhonda, I wanted to ask. I went to school for audio engineering and worked in a few studios a long time ago. So what role does the audio engineer play in the scanner? Like, do they tweak the little bleep? Like, what is the audio engineer doing?
So do they tweak the little bleep? Yeah. So speaking of, so we make okay, now on this you can Google. It's just Google Zebra mobile computer, right? We make the mobile computers that FedEx uses has a speaker in it. Some of them are like the size of a phone, and then some of them are those big brick ones that they carry around that are really heavy. So we put a hospital. That's a great example. Nurses now use our mobile computers to walk around a hospital, and like the doctors and everything, they press on the side. There's a speaker in there so they can talk and page a doctor, right? Or you need to page a nurse. So that's the audio part of why we need an audio engineer. And then we have a studio set up in our building, with all the I don't know, it's like a bunch of foam, like it's like the foam room for studio for the sound reduction, because we have to make sure if you're in a hospital and you're speaking into it, everybody on the floor is not hearing the patient's information, so it has to be very sound conscious, and the sound and the speaker has to have that, whatever it needs to make it a targeted communication. So, and then I'm sorry, to your point as well, we have, when I think about it, like you said, the audio piece of it, then we have plastic engineers, right? Because if a hospital uses the wrong cleaning product on our devices, they'll crack the plastic and it'll start cutting people, like the edges. So we have to have, and that started happening because instead of them using our recommended cleaning fluid, they were using Windex. You can't use Windex. That's like using Windex on your mobile phone screen, it's not recommended because it will break down some of the mechanics of how it's supposed to work properly. So
what is
so along the lines of like the engineering, what type of hardware are inside the mobile computer, the Zebra mobile computer? Is it like one of those like system on a chip type things, or do you make them like yourself? Well, not yourself, but I mean, like, do you make them in house?
Yeah. We used to. I mean, back 20 years ago, when most things were made in America, we did. But now, yes, it's outsourced. I'm not gonna lie. We most of the people here in Long Island now, New York and Rhode Island, and our headquarters is in Lincolnshire, Illinois. Those are most of our software engineers to a point, or they're the ones who are developing a new technology. But the manufacturing is coming out of China, Israel. So those chipsets in India, those things, those intricate pieces of hardware that go in there are being outsourced because just costs alone. That's really what it is. And I'm sorry, that's what makes my job so hard, because like when Amazon calls and tells us that one of our mobile computers or scanners broke, we try to get them, or a hospital, especially during COVID, like if a hospital says our devices aren't working, your scanners aren't working, we can't check in patients and things like that, and it becomes really critical, I have to get people from all time zones on a call immediately to try to figure it out, because as an end user, you don't know what's wrong, right? You just know it's not working and to call the company. So then we have to get the right people lined up to try to figure out, to pinpoint exactly, is it a software issue? Is it a hardware issue? Like you said, is it the chip? Is it the motherboard? It could be a whole number of things. Like you said, the speaker, maybe something's wrong with the speaker, it's clogged up. All we do is get the call that it doesn't work, so fix it, So that's kind of,
right.
It's a cool thing, but it makes my job really hard sometimes.
I have a question. So just going back to when you were learning code, how was it different than when you were learning math? Was it as difficult, or how was your experience?
Yeah, learning code. Oh, you know what? For some reason, I really got into it, so I didn't find it as hard. I remember the first code they made is, I know it was C, because I saw a pattern. Like math to me didn't have a pattern. Maybe to some people it does, but math was just abstracting me. It was just like a whole bunch of everything coming at you, and you just got to do it the way they say do it. You can't be creative. I liked coding because you could be creative. It's like being creative with math. Like, how creative do you want to be with the quadratic equation? Like, nobody cares, right? It is what it is. I mean, you might want to move things around, but you won't get the right answer. So math was so structured where you have to learn it. Everybody learns it the same exact way. But when I was able to start coding, I could see that I could really be creative and I could put something where I wanted it to be as opposed to where it had to be, which is how math is structured. But that's just how my brain, process the two worlds. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Rhonda, so from your perspective, what are the types of things that would make like an intern or like a potential candidate for Zebra? What are like some technical skills or technical languages that we should that anybody who's interested would need to be like enthusiastic about?
Mm-hmm. Well, programming is I wouldn't say it's required, but it's a nice to have. Definitely the willingness to learn more, right? You can't shut yourself off and be like, oh, I know what I know and that's all I need to know. Because even though we're a corporation, we're still we're evolving because we're making more products. For example, we made you probably don't even know about this. We call it Motion Works. So we went to the NFL and they put an RFID. Oh, that's the other thing our company makes is RFID chips because they're kind of like barcodes, but they're just really advanced. They're like barcodes on steroids, right? An RFID chip. So we put our RFID chips into the footballs and the shoulder pads of the NFL players so we can track them on the field. And the reason we did that was whenever the NFL, if a player goes down, it's hard for the coach and the people up in the box to see it. They'll see it first, and then they have to radio down to the ground to let people know something stopped. So we put chips and everything, and we can watch the motion. So if somebody does go down, we can get the medical staff over to that person as soon as possible to get them off the field and get them treated, right? And that saves time. If they break something, is of the essence when those kind of things happen. Well, now COVID hits, and now we're able to take that same technology, and they're going to be using it for people movers. Not that they're going to put a RFID chip in your neck like those crazy TV shows, although I'd let them, I don't care. But you can have a device on you with an RFID chip, and when people are in too close proximity, more than 6 feet, it's going to beep and tell you somebody near you is too close, move away. So we're using that same technology that we use for the tracking of the football fields and players. We can now apply it to post-COVID universe. So having the because there's no classes for nothing like that, right? So definitely any kind of coding language, all your math skills, definitely public speaking, any courses that you take, you're going to have to do a presentation, any kind of team building, because you work by yourself, but you have to interact with people, especially now that we're all working remotely. And they told us, they said the new norm is that we're going to stay at home. Only the people who need to go into the building for lab work will go in, because I know our company is not going to invest the money in reconfiguring 3 to 4 floors of cubes just to keep people away from each other when we've been just as productive working from our homes. So
any advice you'd give to them for these guys going out into internships or into the workforce?
Like I said before, just always keep your mind open, be willing to learn. I mean, don't be shy about learning. If you just don't know, just be able to ask. And I would practice presentations. I would practice doing presentations as much as possible. Any opportunity you have to go in front of an audience, either remotely or once post-COVID, if we do get back there, is to just present something. If it's to your family at Thanksgiving on how to make a turkey, get up there and talk to people in front of them and get comfortable being in front of an audience and being able to articulate what you're trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. We had a little mock presentations last week. They all got a chance to do. And what's great about doing on this platform, everything's recorded so they can watch themselves and critique and kind of have that self-reflection and self-awareness. So all good. Yep. All right. Well, then we're going to let you take some time back to your day. It's about 3:57. So thank you so much. I will be in touch, lady.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy the fairway.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Bye.
Take
Thank you
care.
so
Thank you,
much.
Rhonda.
Bye.
Bye.